Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bescheuertes Kurzes Bein. My name is Leah. Welcome back to the Ashes series review, kinda. Whoop. There's a lot of cabling going awry at the moment because I had to rewire some stuff and. Yeah, it's all a bit cramped and crap, and you probably know the drill. So, yeah, what are we going to do? We are going to talk about the Ashes a bit more. Not the best series for England, obviously, but I think there are some positives for England to take away from this. And yeah, of course, let me lead in with. Of course, you can use the chat. I guess most of the people that are tuning in here today are fellow Guerrilla Cricket fans. So yeah, please do join the chat. And if you have any questions or stuff like that, yes, ask them. I'm always happy to interact with the viewers. Yeah, so let's start. Where to start with this? Maybe we can start with the positives for England because there are quite few of them. Let's put it that way. So, first of all, obviously, Joe Root has made 2 test match centuries in this series, so he will not end his career without a test century in Australia, because I have a sneaking suspicion that this might have been Joe Root's last Ashes trip down under. I don't think he will do another one. He has never won a series in Australia, but he has won a test match in Australia now. So that's good. He made 2 centuries. He has a pink ball century, and very, very important for some people, he also has a red ball century now in Australia. Yeah, so he will not end his career without having scored a test century down under. Jacob Bethel also scored a test century in the last match. And it is his maiden test century and also his maiden first class century, which is quite remarkable. And yeah, funny story about that one. We were talking about it in the Guerrilla Cricket Discord server about English batsmen that are foreign born and made their maiden test century in Australia. Someone asked that. In the end, I think we have come up with all 3 that did that. The first one is Colin Cowdrey. He was born in Mumbai, I think. Ben Stokes is also another one. He made his maiden test century on that doomed 2013-14 tour, the only English century of that tour, if I remember correctly. And now Jacob Bethel, who hails from Barbados. And yeah, he made his maiden test century in Australia as a foreign-born English player. I think the part of the British Empire. So yeah, but that led to a very, 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 very funny story, because how do you pass that for an SQL database, something like Stats Guru? Maiden test century in Australia, well, no. And yeah, I was thinking, okay, all right, maybe someone on maybe some page on Google, maybe someone has done it already. has made a list of maiden test centuries in Australia, so you can then filter by hand, eliminate first of all non-English players, then have a look at the English players, and most of the time the people that are born in such English towns like Peter Maritzburg. Yeah, some connection issues here. I'm trying my best to pause talking while there are some connection issues. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought, okay, maybe you can find that list on Google, and then you can eliminate by hand the stuff, because I don't know how to input that query into Stats Guru, and it would have probably taken a lot longer learning how to do that that query in Stats Guru than just doing it by hand. But maybe you have noticed this. As of lately, the first result on every Google search is some AI bullshit. And so it was this time. There was an AI summary from Gemini, and I was just asking. Let me have a look. I think I can put up that image, because I made a screenshot of it. Because I found it so funny. I found it so funny. So my query was something like maiden test centuries in Australia or something like that. And the AI summary said something about Joe Root making a maiden test century in the 2017 Boxing Day test. A 185 not out. As I have said, Joe Root has made his first test century in Australia on this tour. Here it is. Okay, let me have a look. Do some very, very cunning. No, that will have to go. That will have to go. And where is it? Diverse Bilder. Okay, properties. Browse. AI. Okay. By scoring a 244 not out. An innings that took longer than one of the matches in this series. 144.2 overs, I think it was, his century took. And I think the MCG test took only 142 overs for the whole thing. So yeah, that was kind of funny. But yeah, so I think we had everyone. We had Cowdrey, we had Stokes, and we had Bethel. Those are the three maiden test centurions in Australia that were playing for England while not being born having been born in England. Yes, as I see that Kai is in the chat. That was the question was the maiden test century, and I think Jardine had made a test century before he embarked on that infamous bodyline tour with England to Australia. So he would have been ineligible anyways, because he had made a test century before that. Okay, back to normal. Match info and the logo. Okay, so yeah, that was probably the only thing that England can take away as positives from this series, because otherwise there wasn't that much. The series was dominated by Australia, and in spite of that, I have to say it was probably from a quality perspective, it was probably the worst Ashes series in Australia, the worst Ashes series period that I have actively watched or followed. Um, because this was a series between two very, very, very flawed teams. Um, Even though the Australians won or retained the Ashes inside of 11 days, um, my prediction at the start of the series had been 4-0 to Australia. But they had their own weaknesses and their own problems. The batting lineup was pretty shaky. Apart from Travis Head, who also dominated the standings. Um, just a second. He dominated the run scoring in this series. He made 600 runs and 200 and I think 20, something like that. Behind him was Joe Root. So yeah, Travis Head is towering above the run scoring, and Mitchell Starc was rightfully named Player of the Series. But apart from that, the Australians looked also like a fallible team. Not the best team. It was probably the weakest I have seen them in a home Ashes series. Um, and that's why I say this is quality wise probably the worst Ashes series I have followed, despite it not being the most one-sided in terms of the scoreline at the end of the series, because obviously we have 2006 and 7 and 2013-14, the whitewashes that are probably on the mind of most England fans. But in those series, the Australian team was really dominating. Their cricket was very good. But in this series, it was an England team that didn't really prepare for what was to come, I think. While the Australian team just had a few problems. Their bowling was very good, but their batting wasn't really up to their standards, I would say. So overall, probably the worst series I've seen. In the end, I was a bit off with my prediction, because I predicted that England wouldn't win a match, and kind of miraculously, they did. So that's a good thing for England, for all the England players in this team. They have played a test match in Australia, and they have won at least one of them. Because since 2011, England haven't won a single test match in Australia, obviously. And even though the quality of the cricket at times was very lacking, I think it will go down as an important series in Ashes history, because two of the leading batsmen for their country of the time, Steve Smith and Joe Root, both played in this series, and this is the first Joe Root and Steve Smith have scored a century in the same match. They have never done it before, which is quite remarkable, because Joe Root is now behind. I think he has made 41 test centuries now. He is behind only Jacques Kallis and Sachin Tendulkar in the number of test centuries. Kallis made 44 and Tendulkar famously 51. Steve Smith leapfrogged or went clear of Rahul Dravid, who has 36 Test centuries. Smith now has 37. He is now one behind Kumar Sangakkara, who has 38 Test centuries to his name. Root left Ricky Ponting behind, I think. Steve Smith also now has the second most Test centuries in Ashes tests, because he now has 13 centuries in Ashes tests, and whatever he will do, I don't think he will reach the top spot, because the top spot is the obvious one. It is Don Bradman, and he has 19 Ashes centuries to his name. So let's have a look. First, look at the chat if anyone is with us. Kai is there. Optimus is also there, but the message has been retracted. I think I saw it out of the corner of my eye earlier, asking which pacer I think would come through. I'm not really. I'm not following Australian first-class cricket that closely, I will have to admit, and therefore I would say probably better to ask some of the guys from Australia that are also covering the Ashes. Like, I don't know, Messi Jazz will probably have seen more Australian first-class cricket over the last year than I have. So he's probably the authority, or more of an authority on young Australian pacers than I am. So you should probably ask him, or I don't know who is. I think Dan Liebke is probably also a very, very good person to ask this, or of course Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins from the Final Word podcast. They are probably more in touch with Australian first class cricket than I am. So what went wrong for England after we have said or we have talked about the positives for England? Well, first of all, I don't think their selection policy was the best. They started the series having basically recalled Mark Wood, who didn't do a lot in this series. He was playing in the first test, and I think then he was basically out of the series, wasn't he? Second test is the day-night test in Brisbane, and yes, Mark Wood is out of the squad then. So yeah, I don't know why the English, why they went with 36-year-old paceman Mark Wood, for example. The rest of their bowling attack was also struggling at times, or most of the time. And I think that looking at the leading wicket takers in the series, we can see that the second highest wicket taker is Bryden Cars. He took 22 wickets. That's in comparison to Mitchell Starc, who took 39 at a better average. Mitchell Starc took 31 wickets at 19.93, and Bryden Cars took 22 at 30.31. Scott Boland is in third with 20 from 10 innings at an average of 24.95. Cars only bowled in 9 innings. So yeah, there is and I think that Bryden Cars' numbers in this leaderboard, they are not really telling the story of the tour, that because there were, I think, at least 2 instances where Bryden Cars took 2 in 2, which of course lowers his average. But at times he was really really punished by the Aussies. I think it was in the 5th test. Let me have a look. Come on, load the scorecard. Why is my browser not? Why doesn't it want to show me the scorecard of the 5th test? Open a new tab. Yeah, that works. Okay. Oh no, it was Matthew. Yeah, Bryden Cars and Matthew Potts both conceded over 130 runs. So Bryden Cars bowled 27 overs, 2 maidens, 130 runs conceded, 3 wickets, which means those are at over 40, 43 point something. For that first innings of the Australians, where they made 567. So yeah, I think that the numbers don't really tell the story of the tour that Bryden Cars has had. We had the usual from Zach Crawley opening. The opening pair of England are too inconsistent, I think. Duckett and Crawley together. I don't think that they are really made to open the bowling for England, at least not in Australia. And they're struggling at home too, let's be honest. Funnily enough, BBC Sports had a contest, or had a poll after the series concluded, asking their readers for a combined Ashes 11, and I think 82% of respondents to that poll, or to that survey, wanted Zach Crawley in a combined 11. Why? He's not even the best opener in your team. And Travis Head opened the batting for Australia after being promoted up the order. So yeah, Duckett is clearly the better English opener, and none of those are on the level of Travis Head. Another department where Australia were way ahead of England is in the quality of their keeper. Alex Carey in this series was way better than Jamie Smith, his English counterpart, was, I think. He made a few runs, helped Australia get over the line, and yeah, his keeping was way better. And I don't know. They the English selection policy has always been at least about keepers, and it's a kind of weird thing, isn't it? Because when England are looking for a leg spinner, they are not looking for a leg spinner. They are looking for a Shane Warne. When England are looking for a wicket keeper, they are not looking for a good keeper. They are looking for an Adam Gilchrist. Why are England so obsessed with 2 players that are retired for around 20 years now? I think Warne and Gilchrist retired together after the after the 2006-07 series. McGrath retired, Warne retired, and Gilchrist retired as well. In 2009, they had Brad Haddin as the keeper in the next Ashes series. After that, they had Brad Haddin and one test wonder Graham Manu, who was a last minute replacement, um, and actually only got one single test match, because Brad Haddin managed to do a to do a to, or Brad Haddin managed an astounding feat of self harm, and England were very very gentlemanlike, because Graham Manu only got his one test cap, because in between the toss and the start of play, Brad Haddin managed to break a finger. Um, and normally teams are finalized at the coin toss. Then it takes around 15 to 30 minutes until till play actually starts. And in that time, Brad Haddin managed to break a finger, and the Australians went to the English, hat in hand, and asked, "Sir, um, Brad did something really stupid. Would it be okay if we nominate a replacement for him?" And the English went, "Okay, who?" Uh, Graham Manu. Never heard of him. Can't be that good. That's fine. So Graham Manu got his single test cap for Australia because Brad Haddin managed to break his finger. What else do we have to say? Yeah, fielding was a very very big deal in this Ashes series, and it was for long stretches of time atrocious from both sides. Let's be honest. There were a lot of drops in the field, from both the Australians and the English. Um, they're not winning. They're not winning the Ravindra Jadeja Memorial Award for good fielding. None of them did. There were quite a few issues with Snicko, um, where the system either didn't work in the way it was intended. Then there were some baffling decisions involving Snicko, and some user error, also some operator error with Snicko. And I found it really really interesting because there have been a number of different systems used to determine if there is an edge. I remember in the early, or in the noughties, the system of choice was hotspot. Do you remember hotspot? Where they used thermal imaging, because if the ball impacts the bat, a lot of kinetic energy is transformed into thermal energy. So you can pick up any nicks or hits, or outside edges or inside edges and stuff like that. You can pick that up on thermal cameras actually. Um, in theory, at least. And yeah, there was a lot of talk about that system, about hotspot, because there were mostly conspiracy theories. Let's be honest, about stickers interfering with the thermal imaging. If you had a sticker on the side of your bat, on the edge of your bat, that might impact the quality of the thermal image, or it might absorb the heat or the impact, stuff like that. There were conspiracy theories that you would, what was it? You would take sandpaper to the inside edge of your bat, and you put petroleum jelly or Vaseline on the outside edge of your bat. The theory being the outside edge of your bat would then not show the hot spot because there's petroleum jelly or Vaseline or whatever you call it in your country. It wouldn't show up on hotspot. And you would also rough up the inside edge of your bat, in case you had to review for LBW decisions. And the theory is because the inside edge of the bat is rough, and um, there are things standing out from that. You had a better chance of registering an inside edge on thermal vision if you did that, which is no, this is not how that works. But anyway, that system fell out of fashion, and it was replaced by, or on the international stage, by two competing systems. One of the systems is SNICO, which is short for real-time snicometer, um, and both systems are based on the stump mics, on microphones in the stumps that might pick up audible evidence of any edges or stuff like that. SNICO is generally thought of as the worst system. It's not as good as Ultra Edge, which is the competitor, but Ultra Edge is owned by the company that developed Hawkeye, which is used for ball tracking. But Ultra Edge apparently costs more to operate and to install. And because there has been a lot of talk about SNICO during this series, and I didn't know that either. But apparently the broadcaster is responsible for installing and running or paying for the system used in the match. So the Australian broadcaster thought, okay, I can pull a cheap and quick one here by using SNICO instead of Ultra Edge, because that's cheaper. It led to a lot of controversy, and funnily enough, it was one of the most watched Ashes series ever on their on the broadcast in Australia, at least. So they probably got a lot of money, which makes it very, very funny that they went for the cheapest possible version of edge detection in a series that probably earned them more money than any other series ever. And that is including probably the Border Gavaskar Trophy, which is based on the fact that most of the Ashes isn't really any. It's not a challenge anymore for Australia, is it? They don't lose them in Australia, or they didn't even lose a match in Australia since 2011. And in England, true, the English will tell you they did not win since 2001, which is true. But on the other hand, they haven't lost since 2015 either. So yeah, Australia are very, very fine with drawing series away from home and retaining the Ashes, because whatever happens, they can be sure that they will win their home series. Yeah, so that's that. What else is there? I was going to say something. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Australia won the Ashes inside of 11 days in this series. That's it's a record. It's on par with the infamous 2003 Ashes tour down under 3-4, I think it was, when Nasser Hussain decided he won the toss, and I think he decided to bowl or something like that. That was a very very infamous decision by Nasser Hussain when he was England captain. And there's a very funny cartoon you can see online. It was painted or drawn by Jimmy Anderson. Yes, Nasser Hussain by James Anderson. Jimmy painted Nasser Hussain, and he depicted him as Mr. Burns. I will show you that as well. Let me have a look. Let me have a fiddle around with all the stuff on the screen there. No, that's not in there. Here we are. It's under N. Okay. Yeah, this is a good one. And he also lost the Ashes in a very very short amount of time. Yeah, here we go. Have a look at that. It's Nasser Hussain at the Gabba in 2003, as depicted by Jimmy Anderson. Yes, that's Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, because Nasser Hussain, obviously also known as Beaky, because of that glorious nose, which is quite fun, because Nasser Hussain's nickname is Nas, and if you pronounce it a little bit different, as in Nas, it is the local Cologne dialect for nose. And people in Cologne tend to have tend to call people that have a big noggin, or a big nose, they call them Nas. He was a pimp, basically. He was called Manfred Schäfer, I think, was his real name, but everyone called him Schäfer's Nas. Schäfer is his last name, and Shepherd's Nose, that was his name. Because he had a big one as well. Yeah. So in the end, probably the scoreline for England is a bit flattering, or they didn't really. I think their lone win in the series is a bit unearned, because we are now going back in time to the 90s or something like that, when I think in 97, if I remember correctly, it must have been 97. Nasser Hussain is in the team, and England win the first test of the Ashes in England, and that is actually in the first episode of the first series of the Ridiculous Ashes podcast, which you all should listen to because it's great. It's made by friends of the channel, Dan Liebke and Alex Bowden. And I think Alex is it who says that in 97, when England win the first test of the series, that is the first time in quite a few years that England have won an Ashes test before Australia had an unassailable lead in an Ashes series. So yeah, that's really the doldrums of English cricket. Let me put my screen back to the normal stuff. Also, yeah, hi Tim Wilton Davis. Hello and welcome. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That really means the world to me, because I'm a very small channel, and yeah, that really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And as everyone knows, the algorithm is basically the not very benevolent dictator on YouTube concerning things like that. Yeah, another interesting moment in the series, I think, was the fact that England, or the English leadership group, didn't really grasp the enormity of the problem, I think. There was, I think it was after the first test, they had lost the first test inside 2 days. It wasn't the shortest test match of all time. That would be the Cape Town test, the last time India were in South Africa, which was also a test that lasted only 2 days, or was done inside of 2 days. And that one also contained the worst collapse in test match history, because England actually lost their last 6 wickets for no runs at all. And they did win the match. So, yeah. And after that, there was the opportunity for a tour game. And England declined that tour game. England declined that, or the players, the test match squad did not take part in that tour game. There was an England 11, which was basically the Lions playing against a Prime Minister's 11, and none of the people in the test squad took place in that, and the result was the Brisbane test, the day-night test, which Australia won by 8 wickets. Joe Root did make a century in that day-night test in Brisbane, but yeah, a margin of victory of 8 wickets is quite telling, isn't it? And I think it was after that test that the very memorable Brandon McCullum interview took place, where he was claiming that actually England were over-prepared and overtrained and stuff like that, which was a very memorable moment in cricket broadcasting history, because Ricky Ponting lost his shit for just a fraction of a second. But you could see it. Ricky Ponting looks at McCullum and he loses it, and then, oh shit, I'm on telly. Better get myself under control, and he's back to his professional. Oh yes, interesting. Stuart Broad, who has been really rocking the double-breasted jackets during this Ashes series, I have to admit. What a dapper chap. He stayed cool throughout the whole thing. And after McCullum had done his probably 2-minute monologue about how England were over-prepared, and that's also not good, and Broad, without moving his face, yeah, right. Back to the studio. He wasn't having it. He had a bit more self-control than Punter did in that moment. Anyway, everyone knew this is bullshit, and yeah, that is basically the real problem for England right now. They started this thing they call baseball in reaction to the way Travis Head played cricket, Test cricket, in 2019 in England, and it hasn't. It worked for a bit. The first, what was it? I think the first 2 years or something like that. I think they won a very good percentage of the first 18 tests after they adopted that baseball philosophy. But after that, it stopped working basically, because it's a bit like, yeah, the system has been worked out by opposition sides. And the problem is also that England are fully on board with this. Well, at least Brendan McCullum, the coach, is fully on board with that. And all the key players seem to be relatively on board with that. I think Root is one of the few that didn't really start changing his game. He has always been this player who's very, very, he's flying under the radar, and before you know it, he's on 30 or 40. All in singles. Good strike rate though, but not that flashy, not that many boundaries. There's always singles and doubles, and he generally the first probably 30 runs of his innings rarely make the highlights packages. And what's impressive is, yeah, you also don't notice him if you are watching live. It's, oh yeah, he's out in the middle. He's not out yet, but how the fuck did he get to 30? But Stokes was definitely on board with, we are going to play test match cricket as if it were a one-day international or something like that. He was definitely on board with that. And I think there has been a bit of a breakdown in this series of this mindset, because I think that's how I would describe baseball. It's not a really technical approach. It's more of a mindset approach. It's more of a runs over wickets. It's a bit in Germany, in the armed forces. We have there is a doctrine saying Wirkung geht vor Schutz. So it's very, very it's a cruel doctrine, because it says, yeah, you have to kill your enemy, and your own safety has to be prioritized lower than you killing someone else, which is no, that's not how that works. And baseball is basically that. But I think it was in the third test when we started seeing that suddenly Ben Stokes was also starting to go back to playing in a very, very classical test match way. I think it was, it was the third test when Stokes suddenly decided to drop anchor and made 83 from 198 deliveries, while everyone else was basically going mental. Harry Brook made 45 from 63. Jamie Smith made 22 from 26. And in the middle of that is Ben Stokes making 83 from 198. It's a, I think it's a remarkable innings because I think this is when Stokes started to realize that maybe this baseball business is maybe overrated or not working anymore. It's kind of like, yeah, it worked when everyone was surprised by the way England were playing, but now that everyone has seen England play a lot of that stuff, people have worked out. Okay, we can actually do this, that, and the other thing, and basically nullify the way England play. We can hang them out to dry. And it looks like everyone is doing that, and I think um, Ben Stokes is starting to realize that. That's not to mention the interviews that he has given after the end of the series. Um, yeah, he's pretty open about maybe having to rethink the approach to Test cricket. Um, I don't think that there will be any personnel changes in the immediate aftermath of this fiasco that this Ashes series has been for England, because Brandon McCullum has made this England team pretty much about himself. He has really shrunk down the coaching staff, because he said that the coaching staff was bloated, and I can't even blame him totally for that perception. But the problem is, Brandon McCullum is England's red ball and white ball coach. There are not that many other coaches there. They've gotten rid of the fielding coach and stuff like that. And yeah, there is a bit of bloat, or there had been a bit of bloat in the England staff. But the problem that England face right now is that the white ball results have not really been as good as they were wishing as of lately, and there is a T20 World Cup coming up. So director of cricket Rob Key and head coach Brandon McCullum, they can't be fired right now, because it would it would throw England into absolute chaos ahead of a World Cup. So I think their jobs will be secure for this T20 World Cup. But the result of the Ashes will probably play a role in their future, or will be very, very important for their future, because remember back in the last World Cup, in the ODI World Cup, England were really, really underwhelming. I think, who did they lose to? I think they lost to Afghanistan, and they also lost to Bangladesh. Can't remember. I did live commentary for it, but yeah, they were not good. So another catastrophic World Cup campaign with Brandon McCullum as the head coach, that might actually do it for him. And the problem for Rob Key is that he has been defending Brandon McCullum tooth and nail. If McCullum falls, he will take Key with him, and with Key, Zach Crawley will go, and I think that would be actually a positive for for England. Because I have no other explanation than Zach Crawley's dad being really good mates with Rob Key, for Zach Crawley being in the England team. Um, I always joke about Zach Crawley having compromat on Rob Key, which is a good old Cold War term from the KGB lexicon. That means compromising information. That's compromat. Um, yeah, let's have a so let's have a quick look at chat. And yeah, Tim Wilton Davis. I doubt England fans pay much attention to a World Cup in Sri Lanka and India. I don't know. I don't know. Are you sure? Why are you thinking that England fans are not paying attention to a World Cup in Sri Lanka and India? Because at the end of the day, that's an ICC event, and even though people even though people might not follow it live because of time difference and the time zones and stuff like that, um, if England perform really really poorly uh, in a white ball match, even in the subcontinent, I think that is going to get people to notice, because generally the white ball games in whatever part of the world, it's the home advantage in white ball games is way less pronounced than it is in red ball games. I think first of all because of the fact that all the white balls used in ICC events are made by Kookaburra. So the ball is the same all around the world, and the ICC basically dictates to make batting pitches that, or to make pitches that are very good for batting, for scoring runs, because the sixes and the fours are the thing that gets asses in seats in front of a television. So they make batting tracks for white ball games. The white Kookaburra doesn't really swing, doesn't really spin. So that's another strike against the bowlers. So yeah, I think the England fans will notice, not in the way that they will really watch the games, but they will note down results, or the result. Let's see. Tim says the ECB care about home matches, England fans care about home matches and the Ashes. That's it. I I don't know. I don't really know if that is true, or uh, if I would agree with that, or say that's a fair assessment. But saying that openly, I'm my frame of reference for that kind of thing is obviously really really cricket mad fans, like the people from Gorilla Cricket, the White Line Wireless folks, and stuff like that. That's my social circle um, regarding cricket and online stuff like that. And these people really really care. So maybe my perception of how the average England fan um, looks at this is very very skewed, and obviously my perception is very skewed because I'm a German, born and raised Indian fan, so, or India fan, or Sri Lanka. um, which I can tell you, I think there should be a match going on. Oh, there is a match going on. Um, it was delayed because of a wet outfield. There's a T20 international in Dambulla between Sri Lanka and Pakistan, and I decided to wear my Sri Lanka shirt to show my support. But yeah, it's been reduced to 12 overs aside, and Sri Lanka have made 164-6. So yeah, I'm quite isolated in terms of cricket here in Germany. It's getting better, but right now where I live, there's not much going on. So I'm a bit isolated in that regard. But yeah, all the people I know that care about cricket in any way, they care about any cricket, except for the 100. I don't know anyone who cares about the 100. To be fair. Um, so yeah, I think that is make or break for England. They need to have a really good World Cup for Rob Key and Brendan McCullum to keep their jobs. I would think. um, all right, we are live for now. Give me just a second. I will have to take a bit of a bio break if you don't mind. I'm sorry that I'm doing this alone, and there will be no one doing. Let me see. Um, yeah, I'm sorry that I'm doing this alone, and there is no one else keeping you company during the break. But I really have to go to the toilet. I'm sorry, but I promise to be back in just a second. So, see you in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Sorry again, everyone, but thank you for your patience and your understanding. Yeah, I mean, I think England do actually care about, or England fans actually care about ICC trophies, because that's um until the Olympics in 2028, which might not even happen at the rate things are going in America. Um, that's they were really really bad at ICC events up until 2000, and when was the T20 World Cup? They won 2010, I think. Um, that was their first ICC trophy under the captaincy of Paul Collingwood. Um, then, of course, there was 2019. So England have two ICC trophies, if I'm not mistaken, uh, collectively as a nation, which is less than MS Dhoni has as India captain. He won the inaugural T20 World Cup. He won a Champions Trophy, and he won a World Cup as India captain. Um, so yeah, I think that's very very prestigious, and I think until cricket becomes Olympic again, um, England fans actually care about World Cups. Um, especially now, or especially since 2019, when they were really not bad. They were really good. Let's be honest. They shouldn't have won that final on account of a technicality, or they did win the final on account of a technicality. But um, that was a real moment in English cricket, at least for the fans, I think. Um, and I remember the last World Cup when I was commentating with White Line Wireless mostly. Um, that the English part of the commentary team, they were really upset by the performance of their team in that World Cup. Let me tell you. So I really think that England care about international about ICC trophies. They might not care about bilateral white ball series, but let's be honest, who does? Um, and yeah, of course, they care about the Ashes. They care about home series, but the problem about them caring about the Ashes is that I think a lot of Australians at this point in time care more about the Border Gavaskar Trophy than about the Ashes, because it has been so one-sided um, for 15 years now. Or let's be generous, it's been very one-sided since the 2017-2018 series, because even though England have not won a test match in Australia since that test match in Sydney in 2011, um, which is memorable because Usman Khawaja, who now retired in Sydney, exactly 15 years later, made his debut in that one. I think, as did Stephen Smith. I didn't really register that Smith was part of that team. So Smith and Khawaja, I think, are are the only players playing in this series that before the MCG this series had witnessed an England Test match victory in Australia as members of the playing 11. Oh yeah, sorry, Tim Wilton Davis. Yeah, sure. Yes, you did. England also did win the 2022 T20 World Cup. Yeah, true. So, but that only means that as a nation they have now the same number of ICC trophies that MS Dhoni has as India captain, all by himself. Yeah. Anyway, but I think this is kind of the problem for Australia right now. Um, the big the big series is not necessarily the Ashes anymore. The big series to win and the trophy you really want to win, I think, is the Border Gavaskar Trophy. And I don't think that it is just a result of India winning 2 Border Gavaskar trophies successively in Australia, which they never managed before that one. But also because before India won the Border Gavaskar Trophy in Australia, the Australians also had a very, 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 very hard time winning a Border Gavaskar Trophy or a Test series before it was called the Border Gavaskar Trophy, winning a Test series in India. I think it was Steve Waugh who took a page out of the book of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, um, uh, who dubbed India the final frontier, which is obviously from the intro of the next generation, which starts with space, the final frontier. Yeah, and let's have a look at the chat. Optimus is saying South Africa versus Australia is also quite big. Yeah, but that's a different can of worms, isn't it? I agree with you that South Africa versus Australia is also very big, and I think it will be even bigger now that South Africa are really, really good at Test cricket. They have been for a long time. They have been a quality team for since readmission. But I think that the prestige of any series involving South Africa has now risen since they have become World Test champions, and there's that little bit that separates a great team from one that's able to beat the world anywhere. And I think South Africa have been excellent since that World Test Championship final. And I think that makes any series involving them really, really prestigious. But I think series between Australia and South Africa are kind of weird in a way, because there was a long stretch of time where Australia used to win in South Africa and South Africa used to win in Australia, which is kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, but so this is maybe that's the reason. in cricket you always have home advantage, and I think it was Jared Kimber who looked at the data and looked at the results of test matches and series results and stuff like that. And he made a very 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 good point, because we tend to have a lot more serious results these days than we did in earlier days, and the reason for that isn't what you might expect or suspect initially. It hasn't become harder to win overseas, but it has become way harder to draw overseas. So, all the tests that a lot of teams back in the 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, a lot of the tests that visiting teams used to draw, they now lose. So that means that the series result then tends to favor the home side even more than it did in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s. So, and because Australia have really, or because Australia have won a lot of series in South Africa, that is psychologically that is different from never having won in India, or not having won in India for a very 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 long time. Let's have a look at the chat. Optimus is saying, I think this year Australia will tour South Africa for 3 tests after the sandpaper debacle in 2018. Yeah, I think they will tour. England also tour South Africa. Yeah, and I'm based on recent form and performances. I would say that South Africa are favorites for both series. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, they beat India in India, and in really really convincing fashion. Let's have a look. Where you from, dude? First of all, not a dude. Okay? It's Leah or ma'am. And I'm from Germany. Thank you very much. I would say that South Africa are favorites in both series. They won in India, which they hadn't done in I think 15 years as well. They're coming together as a unit very very nicely. And I mean, looking at the table for the World Test Championship, I think, yes, of course, Australia are in the lead at the moment, but that's mostly because they convincingly beat England in this Ashes series, and because the changes to the format during the COVID pandemic mean that the percentage of the points available, or the points taken from the points available, is what determines your position in the World Test Championship table. And for this cycle, Australia have played 8, won 7. Their percentage is 87.5. New Zealand are in a second place, 77.78. And the South Africans are just 2.6 7-8 percentage points behind them. What I find really, really funny is that Sri Lanka is in 4th place. So yeah. Let's have a look at the chat. Baba or Kohli? Yeah, I'm a fan of India, and I'm a real big fan of Virat Kohli. I I would say for me it is not really a contest. It's Kohli over Baba. And Optimus is saying, I do think South Africa have some issues in their batting, but their fast bowling group is very good. But yeah, their fast bowling is really, really scary. It's really scary. Marco Jansen and Andrik Norke, those two guys are a scary proposition, I have to admit. But they have I mean, Bavuma has grown so much as a player, as a captain. Remember when he became South African captain, and I remember being on r/cricket at the time, which is kind of a hive of scum and villainy. In the end, they were everyone there was fucking racist. I don't know if you are on r/cricket. I have been on r/cricket. I'm currently banned from r/cricket, and I'll tell you why later. You could use flares in r/cricket, and you could use the flag of your country, or you could use the logo of your T20 franchise team or stuff like that. And so you could really easily identify who is from what country. And basically everyone who used an English flag and was an English fan was also a member, because you can. It's Reddit. You can look at users and see what subreddits they subscribe to. Basically everyone that supported England was also a member of r/Brexit. Everyone that supported India was also a member of r/Bakshodi. And please forgive me for my pronunciation there. I speak German, English, and Swedish, but I think it's Bakchodi, which is a right-wing Indian subreddit. It's basically Hindutva central. And for some reason, everyone from Australia was also member of r/the Donald. And in the end, they banned me because they said I was an Indian cosplaying as German. Yeah, no, I've never been to India. I'm really German. Yeah, so they were very, very right wing, very, very racist. And when Temba Bavuma became captain, they generally used to call the Proteas team the Quoteas. And Temba Bavuma was obviously the quota captain. They used to abuse him so fucking hard. And since then, he has really really grown and as a player, and I think the squad is really behind him. He really rallied this team behind him, and one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for that was the performance in the World Test Championship final, where South Africa were really, really good. They have earned the title of best team in Test cricket in the world right now. And yeah, and Bavuma has grown as a batsman as well. Not just as a captain. He stood up, or he tackled the task that was put in front of him. He is, I mean, it's quite intimidating what has been put in front of him. He is the first black African to captain the Proteas, and he struggled in the beginning, but he's done an admirable job since. So, yeah, I think South Africa are the team to beat at the moment. They are really good. And as we were speaking about this Ashes series being probably one of the worst Ashes series that I have witnessed, or I have followed, because both teams had major deficiencies. I think that's the reason, or for that reason, I think that South Africa are favorites against both against both England and Australia. I really think so, and I think they are, and I mean they're playing home series against both teams. South Africa, they are playing versus England first. Can I see on Crick Info? No, that's not what I meant. No, no. Crick Info doesn't have the next series for South Africa in their table. New Zealand is playing against England next. They are coming over to England. Yeah, okay. So both Australia and England are going to go over to South Africa, I think, after in the next northern winter or southern summer, aren't they? Sorry, everyone. Some connection issues again, but yeah. Let's have a look. Tim Wilton Davis saying England played 3 tests versus New Zealand and 3 versus Pakistan. I think. Yeah. They are playing, but that's the English home summer, and the South African cricket season is generally around. It's in the northern hemisphere winter. So the South African cricket season is exactly like the Australian one, centering around Christmas, with New Year's and Boxing Day tests. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Tim also says, and then tour South Africa. Yeah, exactly. So 6 tests in the English summer season. Against New Zealand and Pakistan, then off to South Africa. And I think the Australians are having a bit of a break. They are not playing Test cricket for quite some time now, quite a few months, and then they will embark on a record-breaking, I don't know what, 20 tests in 25 weeks or something like that, or in half a year, basically, something like that. It's really crazy. And I don't know why this has been greenlit, because it's not going to work. It's workload overload for the Australian players, and I mean their captain is Patrick Cummins. Their regular captain is Patrick Cummins, and let's have a look at the scorecards for the Ashes, because no, that's the wrong match. Get back. Because yeah, I know Pat Cummins captained. Pat Cummins captained Australia in the first test. But I'm not really sure if Pat Cummins captained more match. No. Oh, in the first test. Oh yeah, exactly. In the first test, Pat Cummins was still injured, so Steve Smith captained. So that's one for Steve Smith. Second test, I think, marked the return of Captain Pat. Nope, that's also Smith. Yeah, it's been quite a long 1.5 months, I would say. Third test was the first time that Pat Cummins captained Australia in the Ashes series. In the fourth test, it was Smith. Yeah, so Smith captained Australia 4 times out of 5. While Pat Cummins was in Germany we say the Etatmäßige, the regular captain. Cummins is the regular captain. He captained 1 match in this Ashes series, and that's also an interesting question, because who is the Ashes winning captain here? I would say it's Steve Smith, because I think it was in the Border Gavaskar, the first Border Gavaskar trophy that India won in Australia. I think that was the one with 36 all out in Adelaide. When Kohli flew home after the first test to witness the birth of his child. He was basically out of it. And Ajinkya Rahane took over as captain because he was vice captain at the time. And when India won the series, Kohli wasn't in the squad. I think he was still out. So I would say Ajinkya Rahane is the first Indian captain to win a Border Gavaskar trophy down under. But interestingly enough, in this Ashes series, the Ashes were secured for Australia, after the third match, which is the only one that Pat Cummins captained. So, is Steve Smith the Ashes winning Australia captain, or is it Pat Cummins by virtue of being the captain in the match that actually retained the Ashes for Australia? It's 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 a very 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 stupid kind of thing, but it's also a very very funny thing to think about. I have to admit. Let's have a look. Tim Wilton Davis, do you know why Stark was left out of the Australian T20 World Cup squad? He was. Have to admit, I haven't been up with all of the developments concerning the T20 World Cup, because I was doing a lot of Ashes stuff, and one can only keep an eye on so much. But I mean, Gill is left out of the Indian squad as well. So let's see. What does ESPN Quick Info say about that? Ross Adair returns, blah blah blah. Yeah, the T20 World Cup is not starting out under an auspicious star, with the ICC telling Bangladesh that you either play in India or you forfeit the points. Yeah, I don't know, and I can't find any coverage on. Oh yeah, Optimus is saying, yeah, he has retired from T20 internationals. Yeah, okay. That's your answer, Tim. Tim Wilton says one could form an amazing World Cup non-playing 11: Gill, Stokes, Stark. Yeah, and I don't know what's going on with Rishabh Pant. He is also out of the ongoing ODI series between New Zealand and India, where I can inform you, India have won the first match, not in a very dominant way. They were way ahead of New Zealand for lots of the chase that they were set. New Zealand made 300 for 8, and India were flying, and then the required run rate kept creeping up, and in the end they made 306 for 6, winning by 4 wickets with 6 balls remaining. So Punt is out, and I would think that also means that Punt will be out of the T20 World Cup as well. But don't quote me on that. That's not legal advice. Stokes out. I mean, Punt is a really good T20 player. He would really make any T20 team right now, I think. Better than Jamie Smith without any doubt, I would say. Yeah. Again, a reminder, please do not forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm saying that as I'm approaching 2 hours streamed. Yeah, but first of all, thank you everyone who is watching this right now and who is in the chat. That is really, really great. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think as we are now coming up on 2 hours, I promised there would be shenanigans, possibly video game shenanigans, but I have to admit this is a bit I set myself kind of that limit. You do 2 hours live stream, and yeah, that's I'm not going to boot up my Xbox for 10 minutes of Ashes cricket. But as we say in Germany, aufgeschoben ist nicht aufgehoben, meaning pushed into the future does not mean it won't happen. I am going to, or I'm planning to do more streams in English on this channel as well. So yeah, let me have just a look. Where is it? All right. Here we go. I haven't played it in a while, and I'm not the best at it. Yeah, please excuse the water damage. But I do own Ashes Cricket, and I'm planning on playing that one on this channel. I'm really not good at it. I might actually have to pre-record some footage for that, because it's really really involved. It's really difficult, because it's not like your typical cricket or sports game where you have your controller. Just a second. I need this view. Okay. Have a look at this. This is your typical controller, and in the past, the controls for cricket video games generally have been that you use the shoulder buttons and the triggers for your stance. You decide. Generally, left trigger is front foot stance, right trigger is back foot stance, and then you use the face buttons for your shots, for your shot selection, and you use the left analog stick for your aiming. So if you want to, for example, play a front foot cover drive down the ground, you would press this, put the analog stick in this direction, and you would use an attacking shot. I think that was A in International Cricket 2010. So that's the combination. Ashes cricket is a bit different. You use the left analog stick for your stance. You swing the bat by flicking the right analog stick, and you can modify your shot by pressing the shoulder buttons and triggers, which is really, really weird. So I'm not really good at it. I haven't played it in a few years. I mean, I think I have the European version of Ashes Cricket, which was quite funny. Okay, wir sind wieder da. Ja, auf der australischen, on the Australian cover, I think Tim Payne was the cover athlete, and he was removed for posting dick pics before the series, something like that. Anyway, we are coming up on 2 hours. Yeah, Tim Wilton Davis F. Yeah, press F to pay respect. Yeah. I'm hip to the young ones. I know that what's it called? Call of Duty stuff. Yeah. No. Yeah, I think that will be it for today. But again, I'm not planning on not playing Ashes Cricket very, very badly for your amusement. So keep an eye out for that, and I would say thank you everyone for being here, being in the chat. Thank you very, very much. Have a look around on my channel. I have done some specials in English recently as well. There is one that is about German cricket commentary. It's walking you through one over, a very, very famous over, that I commentated on in German. And I explain everything I say and do in English for anyone who is interested in that kind of stuff. There has been a Christmas special this year. Last year, there has been a New Year's Eve special, and those are kind of callbacks to the 2010-11 Ashes series. All of them are in English, so if you are interested in that kind of stuff, have a look around. And again, thank you very, very much, and we will see each other again very, very soon if you want. So, thank you everyone. Bye bye.